All right, this is I think a good time to get started. Hi everybody, welcome to this webinar to learn why geospatial tech is critical to forestry and vegetation management. My name is Joy, and I'm an account executive at Picterra. And Picterra is a Swiss-based company with a team of 20 Picterians, and we are the market leader in extracting analytics, geospatial analytics from imagery. So we enable you to detect objects and monitor changes over time in a more efficient and less costly way. So let me share my screen here. So this is the slide. So we are responsible for the geospatial analytics here. And with me is Andy Carroll from Skytech, a leading company in remote sensing and GIS technology, who is all about the imagery. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, thank you, Joy. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to sharing a lot of information on how we're integrating Picterra into our solutions here at Skytech. So thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Andy, for your short introduction, and great to have you on the webinar today. What are we going to talk about? Here's a short overview. So we'll start with the current situation of forestry, then discuss the role of geospatial tech, and followed with a talk with you, Andy, about the remote sensing in forestry and how your clients are excelling in using the geospatial tech. And after that, at last, we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can type your questions into the chat box. So let's go from here. So traditionally, what we see in the market is that we have timberland companies and governments who are managing millions of hectares of forest for paper and wooden products and environmental monitoring. And what we see in the last 2 decades is that companies, and you see it everywhere on LinkedIn and on the news, that the pressure on companies to lower their carbon offset, their carbon footprint, is becoming immense. So these companies are across industries. You see it in the consumer goods, but all kinds of industries, they are formulating ESG goals. And for everybody who doesn't know, ESG stands for environmental, social, and government. And the goals they have, a lot of them are in the environmental part related to forestry. And with the pressure from society for these companies to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and do their part to slow climate change, many are looking for potential solutions to achieve these goals. And it's important to them to do that, because until these companies have the abilities, the capabilities to fully remove carbon offset from carbon from their direct activities, these solutions, these geospatial solutions, can be used as a solution to work towards these goals. And carbon offset is an in-between solution to apply it on. So the most important factor is to invest in projects that are of high quality and are reviewed by third-party agencies to ensure that it's real and it's verified. So you need to see it and prove that that it's there. So as I said before, forests are crucial, and they are crucial for mitigating climate change, because many forests continue to be driven by human activities. And to support more sustainable forest uses, therefore, it needs to be measured and monitored by tools like geospatial tech. Okay, so to give you an example, the manual process, and I didn't know before, but when I got into this material, I learned that there are actually people walking down on hectares and hectares of land counting trees, and the manual process is still being done by many forest management companies. And in the best case, the companies are using drone imagery and doing the manual counting, the manual analysis by themselves. So looking at picture by picture and counting trees, for example. And in the worst case, everything is done by hand. So you can imagine that in both cases, it's hard to scale, because when you want to scale to, for example, to other regions, you need to hire more people and support your forest management practices like tree counting, but also survival assessment after a while when a tree is planted, but also when you want to monitor the effects by natural hazards, like when there has been a fire. So meanwhile, there's an increased pressure around transparent ESG reports with verified data, and companies need to prove that their sources are that they're sourcing materials responsibly. And there's a demand for carbon credit offsetting, which is inspiring a whole new carbon credit farming industry. So you can imagine, I didn't know, but there are companies who are growing trees for these carbon credit farming. So how does it actually work? How do you apply the geospatial tech? So you need two things. The first one is imagery, and the second one is you need a machine learning platform. So on the imagery side, you need you can get the imagery from a partner like Skytech, and Andy will tell you in a couple of minutes how that would work. And what we see is sometimes companies have their own drone flights, or are using some kind of satellite imagery. The next step is to use a machine learning platform, and it has to be specialized in analyzing geospatial imagery, and that's where Picterra comes in. So to put it in an example, the first I'll give you an example of how that goes into practice. So the whole process is divided in three steps. So the first step is to start with the imagery, and the imagery needs to be in a certain resolution. When you have the right imagery, you upload it into the platform and start your project. So how do you start your project? You start with the annotating part of in this example, what you see here is a tree counting image. When you start on the platform, you start annotating what you want to observe. So you start with a tree, annotate enough trees, and from there you can run the model on how it performs. And when you're satisfied with how the model performs, you can run it at scale. And the scale, that can be a couple of hundred of hectares, but you can also extend it to thousands and thousands of hectares. From there, the last step is to build a report. So you can get it in a report, you can get it in your dashboard, or you can get the report in a form of integrated through an API in your own software. And this process can be applied throughout different processes of the forest management. As I said before, you have like these cycles in forest management with survival assessment, tree counting. You have monitoring after hazardous situations, so like fire or drought. But also this can be used in cases of deforestation or after mining when reforestation is being monitored. But we have a domain expert among us. So please, Andy, can you introduce us to your business and tell us about the clients you work with?
Yeah, absolutely, Joy. And thank you very much for the intro on that. And good day, everyone. So Skytech, we are a geospatial remote sensing company based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We started in 2015. We have traditionally served clients throughout North America, but with the advancements of technology and with partners like Picterra, we're definitely beginning to expand our scope of operations and services. In particular, those services, we have a product which is a SaaS offering called Ranger. It is a satellite and remote monitoring technology that is actually multi-scale. We work with unmanned systems data for verification, but we're detecting change with the satellite scale, the macro scale data. And so Picterra is a critical piece of the Ranger product. It's actually allowing us to automate and giving us the future opportunities to scale in service areas as we monitor more and more area and larger portfolios of areas of interest for clients. But we also have, several decades of geospatial, subject matter expertise in GIS. We're partners with Esri on the GIS side and have a full deployment of their enterprise geospatial solutions. So, Picterra is a piece of our ecosystem of solutions, just like planet imagery on the satellite level or unmanned data that we collect or that some of our unmanned partners collect. So we really look at it as a concert of different solutions, and for each client trying to identify, how much we lean on the machine learning on one instance, and then how much is it more of just a data collection need. So really providing that consulting solution for clients to solve problems.
And how do clients work with you, Andy?
Yeah, great question. So in the forest sector, I'll start there since that's our primary focus today. We have three kind of categories of clients. We have the industrial clients who are looking at supply chain and sustainable harvest verification, timber security if they have land holdings. We have forest managers that we work with who are doing the day-to-day, the boots on the ground example that you shared. So we're working with them to integrate remote monitoring technology, not to completely replace their process on the ground, but to augment and to really gain efficiencies and allow them to focus on the areas where problems are occurring and send the field crews. And then the third category is the conservation side. So we work very much with a lot of land trust and different environmental groups who are primarily stewards of large tracts of property. So they're not going to harvest, and they may be more interested in the potential carbon values of those tracts. And so we're helping them not only to monitor that the health of the forest is there, but also that there aren't illicit harvesting activities, or even in some cases working with them on partnering with third-party consultants to help quantify carbon on tracks. So it's really been an exciting development over the last 5 years of the explosion of new remote technologies, machine learning technology like Picterra, and then the ESG focal kind of needs. Everything's coming together with technology is a big assistant. So
yeah. And what are the challenges you see with all these clients throughout these industries that you describe?
Yeah, well, especially the larger organizations in government, they may have investments in geospatial technology, but how do they infuse something as innovative and new as, either monthly or daily satellite feeds and the machine learning piece. I mean, that's one reason why we came directly to Picterra. Was in the beginning, we started looking at, building our own cloud deployment and spinning up deep learning algorithms and really focusing heavy on the IT and us hosting it ourselves. And then, that when you can outsource that, so to speak, with a trusted partner, you can push a lot of that development cost. And so that's where we're coming in on, helping people develop that plan and then implement, provide services in some areas, but then also just connecting the dots between the different companies and software technologies out there. So.
Okay. Well, very interesting, Andy. And do you want to go to the next slide here? Can you tell you more about how that goes into practice?
Yeah, so this is an example of an application for industrial harvesting for one of our clients. This is in the southeastern United States, so primarily softwood forest, industrial forest. And so what we're doing here, I went into Picterra and delineated areas that were harvested. And so using a pre-made detector, which you have several that you can choose from as soon as you log into Picterra, they're pre-trained detectors that you can then customize and regionalize to your project area or your type of, in this case, your type of forest and the tree species that we wanted to look at. And so all of those areas in the green polygons are annotations that we made. We can also, a nice feature is that we can take polygons that we create in GIS and import those into Picterra. So we don't always have to go in the web browser and annotate. We can bring annotations in as different file formats. And so after we do the training, then we go through and we see in the red polygons are the results. And so I can even go through and then draw an accuracy area where I can quantify the accuracy of my detector results. So I can visually look at the training sample and the results in the red square, and then I could look at the actual, the numerical accuracies on that. So in this particular case, we were able to get, in one day of training, I was able to get over 86% accuracy, which we deemed good for this particular use case. And so now that I have this model trained, I can go run this anywhere in the southeastern United States with a similar type of ecological system, which is pretty much the whole southeastern United States. So several million acres now, I could take satellite imagery, pull that in, and then detect change at scale with this particular detector. So.
Oh, and it sounds pretty easy and straightforward. How did you experience working on the platform?
Yeah, so we started out, pretty early on, about a year and a half ago, and it is pretty straightforward. You can bring in your either annotations, like I said, as KMLs or JSON files, or lots of different formats, or you can draw them and detect and manage, all of your products or projects within a nice content management system that's built in with the platform. So it works the other way as well. I can easily take these products and export them in a format that goes back into our Esri Enterprise GIS. So it's basically coupled the Picterra engine to our larger enterprise deployment. So it could be an automated two-way street, or it could be, just getting in and a person manually testing and training.
Yeah,
so and very, very scalable.
And how do you see the benefits for your clients in working in this way?
Well, I mean, it's enormous time savings for being able to pinpoint areas where we either have, an activity that was detected. We can get a specific geography. You can hand that off to a forester or to a land steward, or even just compile the metrics and put all of that into a dashboard for the business management group to have, situational awareness within their area. So it is really, this geospatial intelligence, in this case, for the forestry industry. So.
Okay, and do you have an example of a case where you've worked with the forest manager or anybody, or what's the best case that you had where you get the best results and really had a clear view on the time saving for them?
Yeah, well, I've got an example, and I think we may even have a slide for it in a minute, but you know, we were able to extract 44,000 polygons for areas that had been disturbed. And this was within a forest type here in the southeastern United States. It's South Cumberland Plateau, which is a very rugged, hard area to operate in on the ground. And you know, we were able to quantify within a couple hours 44,000 polygons. So traditionally, for a GIS analyst to try to, you know, either semi-automate that or worst case scenario, draw those by hand, you know, you're looking at enormous cost savings on time to try to gain that type of awareness. So.
Wow. Well, that sounds really great. And let's see that. This is the next slide. And do you want to explain something about how it works together with the Ranger?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our SaaS product that we built. Again, this is you know, distributed through an ArcGIS or an Esri-based product line. So it works seamlessly for existing customers who have already invested in a GIS. It's that same model of what Picterra does. It's sort of an add-on to the bigger ecosystem. But with Ranger, what we specialize in is quantifying the change detection events. And so on the top right corner or panel, you see what in this particular screen view, we have 219 monitoring events. So those are the red polygons that were actually quantified in Picterra after we trained a detector for here's what a harvested area of forest looks like in this particular region. And so I was able to run the model, as I mentioned earlier, for an entire county and lifted out the 44,000 land disturbance or harvesting activity events. And so we're delivering that as a GIS layer, which our users can come in and inspect those events. They can screen out if there's some noise. I mean, the detector works so well that if someone, you know, cuts grass or moves just a couple trees on private property, that you can actually lift that out. So our platform allows the user to go through and to work with the data, and more importantly, to distribute that to the other members on their team. And then we also, on this view, we're also doing traditional, you know, kind of spectral based change detection. And what you'll see is the agreement between those, especially in the red polygon on the bottom of the screen, or the magenta kind of pink color. You'll see it's fully captured by the polygon that we lifted out in Picterra. So even though we have two different change detection approaches, we're able to put those together in our Ranger product and help you visualize based on the spectral change, and then also what we've done with the machine learning algorithm. So all of that's delivered. And in this case, we're doing this monthly for clients. So we're integrating Planet's 4-meter PlanetScope product, which is, you know, it includes the near infrared band. So works really well for forest applications. And we're monitoring for our clients monthly and reporting those monitoring events.
Wow. And so typically what do you see, how often they need those, these types of data? So is it like on a monthly, you mentioned something, but how recurring is it? Is it, what's the...
Yeah, so it really depends on your source. And that's another thing that, you know, to make sure I emphasize with Picterra, that it is imagery agnostic. You can bring drone imagery, manned aerial imagery, satellite imagery. We could, you know, work with Landsat at a huge scale, or we could drill down and work at 2-centimeter resolution and do tree counting with some unmanned systems data or drone data. So, but the frequency that we're working with right now, currently in Ranger, we can offer up to weekly or even daily with some of the planet feeds. We also have the ability in the bottom left corner, you can task additional imagery. So you can task 50 centimeter imagery or task drone imagery.
Yeah. Okay. And with all this imagery, how do you find it? How did you work with it on the Picterra platform? Was it all the same, or how did you experience the different kinds of working with different kinds of imagery and resolutions on the platform?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a right resolution for the right problem. You know, you've got to pair. If I wanted to do tree counting, I'm not going to get 30-meter resolution Landsat data, or even Sentinel, 10-meter resolution Sentinel ESA data in there. It's challenging to try to do tree counts. So even though, again, you've got to pair the right imagery with the right use case, the experience is the same. I can upload drone imagery and the experience is exactly the same as uploading satellite imagery. One other feature to point out is you can also push streaming tiles. So rather than having a manual upload process each time, I can connect a service, an imagery service, which is being hosted. Let's say Planet has a streaming service. I can push that into Picterra as well and not have to go through a manual upload process. So, but overall, yeah, it's very consistent. Yeah, no matter what type of imagery you're working with.
Oh, sounds good. And once you've worked on the imagery and are looking for your insights, can you describe how that works?
Yeah, so you can interact. You can open a project and begin to look at the accuracy. If you did some accuracy testing areas, you can visually go in and interact with the data. But a nice feature that's been added is the reporting capability. So you can actually go through and generate a PDF type document, which summarizes all of your detections and the different classes of detection. So an example might be, I make one class for clear cuts and then one class for a thinning and a forest type. And so I can go in the report and get a count and even some visual, some infographics of pie charts or line plot lines of the distribution of different classes within my data. So.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds really great. And have you been using the platform by yourself or with a team with more colleagues, or how does it work?
Yeah, so you could definitely start as an individual, which is the way I did when I began to learn the technology and test it over 1.5 years ago. But we as a company decided to become an enterprise subscriber with Picterra and are building it into the system. So we have a whole team of data analysts and technicians that work with me to go in and develop new detectors and to modify detectors for different client needs. So yeah, it's definitely, you can scale from the individual all the way to the enterprise.
Wow, sounds great, Andy, and sounds really easy to use. So when you're looking at what are the benefits of using geospatial tech, it basically comes down to 3 things. So the first one is scaling on your operations when you want to extend on your forest locations, for example, to other regions. With geospatial tech, you can easily scale through a tool like this and add thousands of hectares to your portfolio. And we can keep up with the manual work, but to fight climate change and ease our work and work through thousands and thousands of growing forests, we need urgency and scale. And this is the image I think you mentioned, Andy, about the scaling part of a project on tree counting.
Yes. So in this example, spent about 1 hour, or actually it's less than an hour, with just taking an existing tree detector, within the plant or Picterra environment, and then I trained that with some annotations for this particular imagery that was collected with a drone over an industrial pine plantation here in the Southeast United States. And so after what you don't see are the results, which turned out excellent. We counted over 70,000 trees on this particular tract, and that was done in, for a 100 hectare area in just, I don't know, 15 minutes tops processing time. So that was including, getting the training and the data uploaded. And so it can definitely be a very scalable solution and efficient.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for adding that to my part. Scaling is one, lowering costs. So through geospatial tech, you can lower costs by saving on hiring extra personnel, and let your current team use a tool instead of going in the field. Use this tool for different practices like in forest management and ESG reporting, and also increase your efficiency because you're able to exclude human error from your operations and expand to other practices. Like I said before, from tree counting to thinning and monitoring effects by natural hazards like fire. And that brings us to the end of our conversation here. And let's see if we have some questions, Andy. So let's see if you got something here. I have a question. So due to the complex terrain and structure in forests, I know remote sensing often struggles to collect the same information because remote sensing simply can't see below the canopy. How do you see new remote sensing products or software like Picterra helping to bridge that gap?
Like, one thing that I can think of real quick would be the integration of LiDAR-based derivative products. So you can definitely go through, and Picterra can take any type of raster data. So if you take a three-dimensional LiDAR product, you can ingest it as a 2D, some sort of metric into Picterra and begin to work with that. And I think really for forestry in general, we see the NASA JEDI, the space-based LiDAR project. We really see, the intersection of high frequency satellite imaging and then space-based LiDAR or traditional LiDAR being captured at larger scale to kind of crack that problem that the individual brought up. Yes, we do have to see the mid-story, the understory, and see through the forest. So the combination of LiDAR and satellite imagery will be an interesting solution to that over the next couple of years. Yeah.
Okay. I hope that that answers. I don't know who sent the question, but I hope it answers it. And of course, if any other questions, I have a couple of here, but we're always happy to jump on a call to explain further. Right, Andy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. Another question. Is it difficult to annotate in the tool? I think you mentioned in one of the slides, and I can answer this one. So annotating in the tool happens simply by using a polygon or a dot and outline your object. So in the case of a tree, you can use a dot because if you're looking for example, some kind of pine, and these pines look all the same, you can use a dot, copy your annotation, and basically click on it. And how many annotations did you do in how much time for that last example, Andy?
Yeah, I think it was between 40 to 50, pine crown, canopy crown that we captured, and then after that ran over 100 hectares, and then we're able to get the results. So yeah, just with one training sample and the pre-trained tree count detector.
So with 50 annotations, you found how many trees?
70,000 on that particular project.
Yeah. All right. Let's don't need to walk in the rain in the forest for that.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Let's see. What excites you most about this industry? Nice question for you, Andy.
Well, you know, it's really what we're focused on at Skytech is you know, that full macro scale monitoring and then the verification with the unmanned system. So we're passionate about seeing those two technologies come together to solve problems, to better manage natural resources, to help, you know, as we adapt and try to evolve with climate change. We're going to need lots of resources and tools like this. And so we're excited to be, you know, trying to be a solution to help in that process. So definitely, you know, spent my career in geospatial, so I could go on forever on that, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think people are going to love it. But thank you for your answer, and really nice to hear. I think if I speak for myself, it aligns because it's a growing industry, and it makes it. I think it's the next revolution in IT and software, because it really helps people simplifying their work and make it more easy to do their work. And I think that's what it's all about, to make everyday life easier, right?
Absolutely.
See how many questions. What question do we have more? Okay, Andy, this is one is also for you. Do you see a pattern in the types of departments or job titles that approach Skytech for help?
Definitely on the ESG front in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
You know, as we get serious about commitments, like you mentioned, Joy, you know, carbon reduction, neutrality, offsets, being able to verify that and to audit what is being done. You know, am I planting trees at this location? How are those trees doing? You know, how many survived the hurricane or the typhoon? Or, you know, so yes, the need is really starting to emerge, and I think is a great fit for this technology. Not only the cadence of imagery that we can get nowadays from small satellites and unmanned systems, other imagery sources, but the machine learning advancements like Picterra, bringing all those together. You know, it's a great fit for those use cases.
Great to hear. Thanks. And it's the next question? What department does it usually fall in?
I've seen sustainability, so corporate sustainability officers. We've engaged several, and then after the engagement, it may shift down to a technical level, like a geospatial or a data analytics officer. But yeah, it's typically starting with sustainability.
Yeah. And how if someone in because I know you have too, because a lot of FMCG companies or in consumer goods, they're looking ways to improve their goals in sustainability. What if someone in the company in sustainability is thinking about it? What would be helpful to them if they want to enroll this kind of solution in their company?
Yeah, I think it's having an understanding of the type of areas that you want to be monitoring. So an idea of the size, what does the portfolio of your sites or your supply chain look like? And how do you geographically define that? That's a very important first step in understanding how to integrate this technology. The next would be, how frequently do you want to look at change or verify? And that determines on that matrix of what satellite vendors you have, what problems you're trying to address. And then, you know, really it's then just putting the team together and building the machine learning detectors with Picterra. And then, you know, from there, it just begins to roll. But that's the big fundamental, is what does the scope of your area of interest look like, and how frequently do you want to report? And it varies from each organization. Some people need an annual sustainability audit or report. Others need weekly activity on the landscape to understand timber security or harvesting activities within their forest basin.
Yeah, okay, that's really helpful, because I think lots of these companies, they are working towards these ESG goals and don't know the way yet to achieving them.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge that we run into this industry. We all want something, and there are these large goals, and you see on lots of these websites they have like the whole plans on reaching these goals, but how do you reach them, and what are the tools to get the job done? So that's good to know how that works. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one, Andy. What are the biggest pitfalls you see when getting started with embedding geospatial tech in your operations?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest pitfalls, just, I think, and this is because we experienced it ourselves, trying to do everything in-house completely, to self-perform, spinning up a cloud and training deep learning algorithms. And, once we started to learn and test Picterra, that our opportunity to partner and essentially outsource that component. So the pitfalls are trying to do everything all within the organization. I think these days, with as much data and much technology and as much expertise and niche, skills, you've got to have someone help you pick and choose and build a team of those technologies to make your overall solution. If you try to do it all in-house, it's going to be extremely expensive, intense for staffing, and yeah, it can be a real pitfall, potentially prevent you from even getting started.
Yeah, we get it a lot, and that's so we had Picterra, the company is founded in 2016, and basically the first 5 years were spent on building the application and make it work like it's doing now. And yeah, lots of companies don't have the capacity to start building their own models or work their way through that, or setting up a department to build something like that.
Yes, exactly.
All right. I think if I take a look at the time, we've come to the end of the webinar. If you have any other questions, anybody, Andy and I, we are happy to jump on a call and give you more insight on whatever subject you would like to discuss, and how you can apply geospatial tech in your own operations. Anything you want to add to that, Andy?
No, just echo what you said, Joy, and thank you everyone for the time, and happy to answer any questions down the road.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining this webinar. Everybody who joined and is watching, thank you very much for your time, and the recording and slides will follow up in a mail. Thank you very much, and goodbye.